Okay, guys. So I was super excited actually to moderate this panel and just generally be here because I have been building in PayFi for a while. And when people talk about crypto and transforming the financial systems, they're typically talking about tokenization, payments, stable coins. But for us to truly transform the financial system, people typically ignore two fundamental parts. One, oracles, and the other one is advanced credit and debt markets. So I'm very excited to be joined by both of you. I'm going to give you both a chance to introduce yourselves as well, just for the benefits of the audience.
Yeah, hi, my name is Niklas Vogelsang. I'm the co-founder of Centrifuge. We have a long history of experimenting and ultimately arriving at building what we now refer to as real-world assets in crypto. So really the idea of, okay, how do you take actually a traditional financial product, improve it through crypto, through creating a token, increasing transparency behind it, using stable coins to settle them, right, to transact in, and then ultimately like allowing people in DeFi, or actually mostly other DeFi protocols, to get exposure to that. So we started in, I think the first transaction on mainnet we did in 2019, and then I think the first transaction with Maker, like pilot, was in 2020, and then like 21 it kind of really started to scale. Now today, right, like we went from like a couple of $1 million a few years ago in real world assets on chain to now I think I'd say over $1 billion in what is now mostly tokenized treasury bills. And I'm very curious to see where this is going, as I believe like fundamentally every financial product can be built in a more efficient way using like DeFi protocols.
Yeah, I'm Niklas Kunkel. I'm the founder of Chronicle. Chronicle is the second largest by TVL Oracle protocol in crypto, securing just over, I think it's now 11 billion in assets. We're also increasingly focusing on the tokenized asset space, and I think it's a really exciting space. So I'm really happy I get to chat with Lucas. And
I mean, I would say fun fact is that we used to fight each other on the Maker governance call about how to price real world assets and how to actually build these things. I think that was what, in 2019, 2020.
Sure.
It's cool to arrive here today.
Another life. Yeah, my history, or our history, I think, is back when I was still a Maker DAO. So yeah, I was part of the founding team of Maker, and I think Maker was working with Centrifuge, and we were kind of sitting on opposite sides of the table for a while.
I mean, it's a good conversation to have today because, I mean, yes, obviously to bring real assets on chain, you need to trust and verify what is actually backing those assets, and like it was a long journey to get here. And it's fun to be building together on this stuff.
I was a little scared of you. It seemed like you were going to make me do a lot of work that I didn't want to do at the time.
Okay. We will come back to some of the points you touched on. And just to introduce myself very quickly, my name's Maya. I previously built a non-custodial peer-to-peer on and off-ramp and scaled it in Nigeria and Kenya to multi-millions in liquidity. So, first question. What is currently missing from the Oracle market that we need if we really want crypto to enable the transformation of the RWA ecosystems?
So I think the tokenized asset space has evolved considerably over the last 24 months. And this first generation that was quite primitive. Right now, they're much more advanced in their not just in their like legal constructs, but also in their transparency. But I think we're not quite at the stage where tokenized assets are crypto native yet, and that makes them more difficult to integrate on a protocol level. And I think getting to that stage is what's going to help tokenized assets really scale. And oracles kind of play like a really pivotal role in helping us get to that point, right? So getting away from this, point where, okay, maybe reserves are published, once a month, or they're published quarterly, or some data is released but not other data is released, or the data is coming from counterparties that may have some counterparty risk or moral hazard rather than directly from where the assets are custodied. I think oracles can really help with all of that. And so it's not like there is this one thing and once we have it, it's, we're there. It's just kind of incremental, right? Every piece of information that you can give a DeFi protocol, right, decreases risks and enables more kind of smart automation.
I mean, when I look at like traditional financial system, how information is shared and how information is verified, I think it's what we have with the Oracle infrastructure, which is maybe like what Oracle should do in DeFi, right? We have such a small sliver of products on chain today that have like good pricing information, and we have, and when you look at like under the hood of most financial products, actually, like it very quickly goes into a place where there's a lot of subjectivity and like different data sources that maybe have conflicting information, and then also like actually you get to a point where there might be what is considered a price that you can look up on the Bloomberg terminal for a financial product, but that might still be like quite far, right? Like somewhat off from where people are actually trading it at. I think like the primitive Oracle protocols that we used to have definitely were not like really able to deal with that complexity. So I think like the direction that it's going now, where you have like a way to pull in many different data sources, verify this stuff on chain, but then and because simply putting all of this information on chain is not feasible, but then still like have like what ultimately arrives at like an indication, right, a verification of like the 20 different bank accounts and brokerage accounts and transfers and fees and whatnot, right, into like one number that then can be trusted, I think is like a good direction. I think so kind of going from going from this understanding that, there's like one price for ETH. I think it's pretty easy, although actually I've never checked. I wonder how much different oracles vary in the price of ETH. It's probably not that much, right? But I think that question is much harder, and it requires both like technology, but then also I think better understanding in like how these oracles are constructed. And bringing kind of these honestly like just traditional financial experts into this industry so that we can actually work on oracles that actually make sense.
I guess jumping off of what you just said, right, which is that fundamentally not everything on all data needs to be or should be brought on chain, right? It's not feasible apart from anything. One thing that I've been debating with friends is, new technology and how do we embed that within the Oracle ecosystem? Does it make sense to embed it as well, right? So whether it's the likes of TLS Notary or TE, right? How do you see that being embedded with Oracle technology, and how do you see that fueling different aspects of tokenized products, etc.?
Okay, so there's a lot kind of to cover here. There is the data integration side of things, which I think kind of Lucas touched on, right? Getting some of this data is not like you're connecting to an API and you get the data like that, right? You just query it. Sometimes it's quite unconventional. And it's quite eye-opening if you're not used to like how traditional finance is structured from a technology perspective. You may be in for a little bit of a shock, right? The canonical source for some data might be an email. It might be a spreadsheet. It might be none of those. It could be a web page that you have to scrape the data from. The data might be distributed across multiple web pages and you have to scrape all of them. Sometimes some of that data may overlap across different pages, and those different pages may disagree. And the customer can't tell you which one is the truth, right? So if they disagree, there's like, they disagree, right? So that I'm sorry if that sounds bleak, right? But that is how a lot of traditional finance kind of is at the level of maturity from a technology perspective. And so there's a big challenge on the Oracle side in being able to really integrate from a data perspective. And then there's kind of what you touched on, right? And this is the other pillar, right? On the data integrity side, right? So there's data integration and then data integrity, right? And so on the data integrity side, I think this is where you kind of see like the most diversity from the different Oracle providers, right? TLS Notary, right, is certainly something that a lot of people are interested in, right? I think for now, Chronicle has just been using a validator based approach, right? So we have like top crypto projects like Etherscan and Fura and Gnosis and you know, those type, and MakerDAO, like those types of players, right? All, you know, independently attesting to data, right? And then you take kind of a 2/3 majority of this, right? So similar to, right, like the blockchain guarantees that we have. And so I think from a consensus model, like, I think what you're going to see is a lot of Oracle providers just kind of like replace those consensus mechanisms like over time and just like plug and play. But like what matters now is like, are you able to get access to the data? And can we see some evolution on the TradFi side as they get more and more into token issuance? Can we get them to invest the resources to modernize their tech stack, right? So we can start building more generalized Oracle solutions rather than these bespoke things that are kind of like custom to every asset issuance.
I mean, I think, so I, like, just to add one small thing, like I've spent a lot of time looking at zero knowledge and trusted execution environments, TEs, mostly because like when you start dealing with financial products, often like privacy is super important. And I think the reality though is, I think in the next couple of years we will not see like neither the technology to really be used for those specific use cases because it's simply too early and too complicated, nor will we actually be able to do a lot of this in privacy. But I mean, the TEs can be, I mean, they're an improvement as long as you don't rely solely on them, because the minute you rely solely on them, if there's any issue with them, and they are centralized points of failures, right? So as soon as you, like, you can improve it because you take some control away from the like data feeds or whatever goes on chain, but you still give 100% of the control to Intel in this case. And like, I don't think that's like it's a bit of a risk that like if you start building your entire infrastructure on the assumption that Intel is trustworthy. I mean, they've been broken in the past, TEs. So like, I'd say like that's a pretty risky bet. So you have to kind of, you can use them as a tool, but don't use them as like a 100% trusted thing. Zero knowledge, I think, can be better in that way if you trust the math and you trust that the code is implemented well, which is the other challenge, because there, like, you don't trust Intel, but you have to do a lot more work to make this secure. And that's, I think, just simply like a bit too early, and we don't have the tooling yet for that. In the end, like, a lot of times, right, you see like crypto economic security so far has almost always won over zero knowledge, but simply because it's so much easier and faster. Over time, I think that will change.
Okay, so there's something that you both have touched upon in your answers, right? And that is to do with how we think about branching out from just bespoke use cases. But I want to go to a specific case, right? Especially as Lucas is on the stage, which is we know that for crypto to truly be, or crypto-enabled finance to truly be mature, we need to have advanced financial and debt-based instruments, primitives, tools. And one of those that is still being debated is how do we do under-collateralized lending, right? Especially for real-world assets. And some of that is an underwriting challenge, right? Which is not really about technology, so to speak. But part of it is also how do you make sure that you have the right Oracle-based data when you're also structuring that loan, right? Especially if you are the lender yourself. So I'd be interested to hear how you would both think about that, like what can oracles do? What else is needed for that to become a reality?
I mean, so the like under collateralized lending, right? Like, I mean, the definition of what we think of collateral in crypto is like you have some liquid ERC20 token that you deposit into Aave or Spark or whatever, Morpho, and you borrow some other ERC20 token against it, right? And that's like the simplest way of doing lending, because both the collateral and the thing you borrow are relatively liquid, and you can easily liquidate it. When you now when you look at the world though, like that is the absolute smallest part of the lending market. The majority of the lending market are, I mean, the single biggest asset class probably is U.S. Real estate, right? So, and that is an extremely efficient market for real estate, but still, like, the way it works is there's no like 24/7 price feed, there's no 24/7 liquidity on selling a single mortgage, and so you have to so you're immediately in a product that's like not liquid anymore. So what we did at Centrifuge is we didn't try to tokenize individual mortgages. We said, okay, there's probably going to be like asset managers like there are in the traditional world that might bundle these loan products and issue a product that's similar to a CLO, so a collateralized loan obligation, or a real estate investment trust, right? Those are like the TradFi products that we have, and we started implementing that on chain. Now, there's still a lot that has to be done, and like actually, I mean, the early conversations we had were about, I mean, the first project we did was with New Silver. That is a like fix and flip more lender, hard money lender. So they're someone buys an apartment in Boston and says, I want to spend $200,000 to renovate it and then sell it, and 2 years later. So it's like a loan for like say $700,000 for 2 years. After that, you sell it. So what data do you need for this? You want to make sure that the legal paperwork is all right. You want to make sure that the valuation of the house kind of makes sense. Maybe you can get like a price of similar homes in the neighborhood. You can get an appraisal, and you want to feed all of that into a model, and then you can look at it and say, okay, well, this is like the price that we arrive at based on this model. In the end, like there's gonna be, it's gonna be very hard to like really, like you won't find a financial institution that will agree on the price without verifying it themselves. So often what happens is they model it themselves, they want to have access to all of this data, and then if they agree on it, then they'll buy or they sell. I think that's like how this works, and maybe a good example. I think for oracles, right, that does mean what Nick mentioned earlier is like, yeah, there's a lot of archaic infrastructure, there's a lot of different data. The more transparent you can make it, the more cheaply you can bring some of this data like in a verifiable way on chain, or like at least link it to data that's on chain, right? That can help in creating these products and like creating liquidity for them.
I don't think I can put that any better.
Fair enough. We are out of time. Thank you so much for joining the panel, and thank you so much also, both of you, for being on the panel. It's been a really interesting conversation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.